It is growing. Oh, it's really growing. I'm just gonna pop up the PowerPoint and then we're gonna get
Okay.
started at we'll get started at 7 o'clock.
Also, everyone, we have a Q&A option. That if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in there. We'll probably answer questions at the end, but like as they come up, I know questions come up in your brain, and you can't save them till the end. So feel free to write them down, pop them in there. Hopefully, we can address them.
Man, I'm glad I read this so I can hit the record button. Oh, it's already recording. Perfect. So it is what's that? Sis?
I just said welcome.
Oh yeah, welcome. We'll tell you who we are in a minute, but um this particular presentation slash webinar is an extremely exciting one. We have been working for a very long time to get here, and it is beyond a dream for us to be at this point, and for us to tell you all about the 15 white coats, to also tell you more about who we are, and then lastly, to tell you about the thing that probably most of you all came here for, and then answer any and every question that you have. So your speakers will be myself, Dr. Russell Leday, and then my dear sister and co-conspirator in crime for the 15 White Coats, Dr. Sydney Labat. Um, this is a Funding the Future Physicians presentation that is funded by Genentech. Huge shout out to Genentech for supporting this work that we're doing, which is absolutely wild. To give you all some context, this photo was taken on December the 19th in 2019. You can see the names of all of the people who are on here. Every last one of them are physicians now. All of them are in residency. And 3 out of the 4 of us on here run the 15 White Coats. And the person who was behind the camera was the 15 White Coats. That is Mr. Brian Washington, who is a first-year medical student at Tulane University School of Medicine, myself, Dr. Russell Leday, Dr. Sydney Labat, and Dr. Rachel Turner, who is right here, who is a family medicine resident in Nashville, Tennessee. So now, who are we? So actually, first, our mission. Like, what is the 15 White Coats all about? Some of you all, this may be your first or second time ever hearing about the 15 White Coats, and so obviously we want to tell you a little bit about us. This is our mission statement. It's been this way since essentially the beginning, and it's not going to change anytime soon. We are dedicated to enhancing representation in medicine by supporting, mentoring, and inspiring underrepresented students on their medical journey. And I want you to keep in mind that medical journey doesn't necessarily start when you start applying to medical school. It starts all the way back when you're a little bitty kid in kindergarten. And you hear these little kids say, I want to be a doctor. That's when their medical journey starts. And so we strive to challenge societal norms, break barriers, and foster a diverse medical community that reflects the population it serves, ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background, has an equal chance to wear the white coat. So we do that in 3 different ways. We ensure cultural imagery is present in learning spaces through putting our photo in spots all over the world. We have put our photo on 4 continents to this day. We have given out over 50,000 photos to this day, and we just continue to climb. In every last one of those photos, well, most of those photos, at least 80% of them have been free. So every learning space that signs up for a poster gets it for free, along with the curriculum that talks about how do you become a physician? What is a physician supposed to look like? What are they supposed to sound like? Where are they supposed to come from? So that we can challenge some of those societal norms. The second part is that we provide economic support to URMs, or underrepresented minorities in medicine, during their medical journey, which is essentially what this Funding the Future Physicians Initiative is. And then the last part is that we are infusing culturally adept literature into learning spaces. So we started this initiative called the Resilient Readers Book Club. And the Resilient Readers Book Club is this initiative that we started initially with a lady out of Indianapolis, Indiana, called Natalie Pipkin, who had a mobile bookstore that was a Black bookstore. And so she helped us to curate books into a small library that can be put into learning spaces all over the country. And all of the books in those libraries are from minority authors. The illustrators are also minority illustrators. And so it gives kids an opportunity to not only have an engagement in literature that represents their lived experience, but also to have access to literature that fits their lived experience. So that's our three things, and that's what we're good at, and that's what we do. So here's a little bit about who we are. Myself, I come from Lake Charles, Louisiana. I've done a million and one things, and I finally landed on something that I absolutely love. I was in the Navy. I went off to go get my bachelor's degrees in chemistry and biology from Southern University. And then I went off to go get a PhD at NYU School of Medicine and Molecular Oncology, where I studied prostate cancer biology. And then I went on to medical school. And while I was in medical school, I met this absolutely crazy person who was just down for the cause, and just like we've been rocking together ever since our first day of medical school. And we co-founded the 15 White Coats, which is now this globally acclaimed initiative that champions underrepresented minority students in their pursuit of medicine. And today I am a triple board resident at Indiana University. I'm the first Black man to ever do a triple board residency at Indiana University. That means that I'm specializing in pediatrics, adult psychiatry, and child and adolescent psychiatry. And my goal is to improve mental health accessibility, specifically in marginalized communities, and to be a trailblazer and advocate for equity. And now I'll turn it over to my dear friend, Dr. Sydney Labat.
Okay. So welcome again, everyone. My name's Sydney. As of last year, newly Dr. Sydney Labat, as I graduated from Tulane University School of Medicine. That's a lot written there, but in summary, I'm from a small town called Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, and I'm a descendant of a long line of educators. And I think access to education is important, and I took that very seriously growing up my entire life. I wasn't really super interested in medicine until I had a sports accident. So I tore my ACL a couple of days before Christmas when I was a junior in high school. And that kind of opened my world. And I thought that my surgeons, the rehab facility, everything that went into making me well, I was super interested in. So that same surgeon, I asked if I could shadow him once I was back on my feet, and he said yes, and things kind of took off from there. I went on to study pre-medicine and biology at Xavier University of Louisiana, which I'm proud to say is one of the top producers of Black doctors in the nation, and I'm a proud graduate of that HBCU. And I did a bunch of things there, and one thing that really kept me going there was giving back to my community and interacting with my community in any way, shape, and form. I also became a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority there, and I did just so many things while on campus that sort of led me to this position that I'm in now. After that, I went to Tulane University School of Medicine here in New Orleans. Like Russell said, I met him on my very first day, and we've been kicking it ever since. And along with him and a group of other classmates of ours, we really found our passions ignited within ourselves and within each other just through our interactions, through being minorities in medicine, through being minorities in medical school. So we ended up doing a bunch of things for our community. One of the bigger ones being the development of the 15 White Coats, which is the organization that we're representing today. And then I, by the grace of God, graduated from Tulane last year in May, and I had the opportunity to match into the Ochsner Clinic Foundation residency program for anesthesiology, and I'm currently there in my second year. I'm so excited. And the biggest thing for me is that I feel like I would never be in this position to be able to stand in front of you right now and say that I'm a physician and I'm a minority physician and I'm from a small town in Mississippi and I've done all of these things. I would never be able to do that without my mentors, without people like us sort of paving the way for me and bridging that gap. So this is important to me. This is important to us. What we do here is not a game, and everything we say here is going to be real. Everything we say here is going to be for you, for the betterment of your career and your future. So I don't know what else to tell you, but that we love you, we support you, and just please hear us out. And we can't wait to help you kickstart your future in medicine.
You want to run them through our webinar structure?
Right. So basically, what we're doing today, we told you a little bit about ourselves, a little bit about 15 White Coats. Now we're going to talk about the big main point is our Funding the Future Physicians initiative. So it's a really big thing where we got this amazing donation from this company called Genentech, and we want to give it to you, but we want to give it to you in a meaningful way that's going to support you on your journey to medicine. So first, we're going to talk about what is it? What's Funding the Future Physicians initiative? Why was it launched and what are the objectives? Who can benefit from this initiative? And then how will the initiative work? Who's eligible? All the details. And what are the benefits of that? And a big thing, as everything is an application process nowadays, what is the application process? How do I get to it? How can I become involved? And more, including answering all of your questions. So we're very, very excited to share with you details about this initiative.
So we'll start off with the simple one. What is the Funding the Future Physicians initiative? I'm going to step back from this slide and help you to understand something. Sydney and I come from humble backgrounds, extremely humble backgrounds, and we are aware of the challenges that come with becoming a physician, whether it's taking the MCAT, the anxiety that comes with taking the MCAT, the non-exposure to topics that are on the MCAT, having teachers who don't really understand where you come from, but then saying, well, we give you all the tools, you should be able to get into medical school. It's not that simple. What we wanted to do was to create something that was nuanced. It wasn't simple. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, we just gonna offer you all these resources, and then at the end of the day, it's on you to get through it. Nah, we want to make sure that you all have a totally encompassing experience to make sure that you are ushered into medicine, that you have all of the tools that are needed in order for you to get to where you're trying to go. Those things mean that you would successfully take the MCAT and do well, that your MCAS application would be practically flawless, that you would be able to get medical school entrance interviews, and that you would get them at least 10 medical schools. And then the way that we're going to go about doing this is that we are going to give you mentorship. Now, this mentorship is not just like any other mentorship. The majority of our mentors who have signed up are minorities. I'll tell you that out the gate. They mostly come from underrepresented minority backgrounds. So they truly understand what you are going through and the things that you will go through. The second part is that our MCAT preparation resources are not just, oh yeah, let's just give you some program, you take it, you go about just doing it on your own, and then let's just hope to God that it works out on the other end. No, we have sat down with the company that is actually providing our MCAT prep, and we've talked about nuanced, very tailored MCAT preparation. So that means first thing that we'll have a class where something necessarily to. Obviously, this exam is given in English, but it also creates this comfort around having someone who understands where you're coming from, who understands your language, to communicate to you the things that you need to understand for a specific topic, whether it's cars or it's bio or it's chem or whatever you need. It also means that we have access to an extra pool of about 100 hours of private tutoring for those people who are especially struggling around a specific topic in much smaller groups, like 2 to 3 people. Maybe most of you all who end up getting selected for the cohort will just need the general MCAT prep. We'll make sure that you're in those classes on a regular basis. We'll be tracking your performance and things of that nature. But some people will need more tailored training, and we want to make sure that we give you that. When it comes out to your MCAS guidance, we will have someone specifically from the AAMC to come and speak to you all. That is our goal, is to put you all in front of the people who will be the people to have a say in whether or not you get into medical school, but also the people who can give you the extra nuggets, the tools, the things that you need to do, you need to know in order to make sure that you have a successful MCAS application. We'll also have literally deans come in and help you with your personal statement. Not just deans of medical schools come in and help you with your personal statement. And then we'll also help you, obviously, with support with interview and acceptance consideration. Because once you get these acceptances, then it's about figuring out what's the best fit for you. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Labat to talk about our next part, which is why we chose these institutions specifically for us to select the next cohort.
So I'm sure many of the people who either are minorities or are not minorities are aware that minority representation in medicine is meek and mild. Is that we don't have a bunch of indigenous physicians, we don't have a bunch of Hispanic identifying physicians, and we don't have a bunch of Black identifying physicians. And that can be seen in any hospital you walk in, any workplace. I mean, it's a national problem. So why are we focusing on these specific institutions? We're focusing on these specific institutions because these are the places in which we can find those students that want this and that need that little extra push, right? These are people who, as a proud graduate of an HBCU, I know how hard we work and I know what we want. I know how hungry we are. And I know the same thing applies to Hispanic serving institutions and Indigenous serving institutions. So we're focusing on these programs, we're focusing on these places in an effort to reach those students. Maybe some of you on the webinar now are participants or students at those institutions, but we're trying to reach you and we're trying to let you know that we're here for the support, for the funding, for the guidance, for everything that Russell talked about on the previous slide. This is for you, and we are so excited to share it with you.
So the big part, right? Like application requirements. Obviously, a lot of these things that are on here are not like, they're not like earth shattering. These are things that theoretically you all should be like completely understanding. Your name, your email address, your address, your phone number, your intended entry, like the year you intended entry into medical school, like uploading your official transcripts, a letter of recommendation from an upper level science professor, a second letter of recommendation from another professor, answering questions that are 250 or 250 word essays that talk about what does representation in healthcare mean to you, and describe who you are to the selection committee and why medicine is your future path, your future career path. And then there are some things that we need you all to understand. Obviously, there are some important things that we'll also talk about in terms of like who we're exactly looking for, but like, what is your science GPA? And if you've never calculated that before, then that's something you need to sit down and do, because it will be something that you'll need to have on your MCAS. What's the name of your institution? What kind of institution is it? Is it an HBCU? Is it a Hispanic serving institution? And is it a tribal serving institution? And I know some of you all are saying like, I don't know if my institution is a Hispanic serving institution or a tribal serving institution, or you should know if your school is an HBCU. But we'll have that listed on our website so that you know exactly what institutions we're looking for. The other part is that there are a few things that we have put in place to make sure that we're not wasting your time. And if there's a better opportunity somewhere else that's much better for you, that you go about it. One of those things is making sure that you participate in 80% of all the cohort programming. That means including a baseline MCAT prep exam at the start of the programming. And the reality of it is that if you can't participate in 80% of the programming, we realize like, hey, this program is probably not best fit for you, then it means that we may allow you to go somewhere else and try out a different opportunity that better fits your schedule or better fits just where you are in life right now. And the other thing is that you have to be interviewed before you're actually selected for our cohort. So in some cases that may be with our executive director, but in many cases it'll actually be with the actual co-founders, myself, Dr. Labat, Dr. Turner, or student Dr. Washington, that you'll sit down with us and go through some very simple interview questions, but we know exactly what we're looking for. And we need you to understand that one of the most important things to us is your total commitment to this program, because we've put a ton of energy into this and we want to get a ton of results out of it. And the ton of results for us is not getting more money or getting more fame or any of those things. It's us diversifying medicine by getting you into medical school. That's the goal. That's literally our goal. So cohort requirements. Here's the set criteria for all of the students who are coming. Uh-oh. I don't know why that's missing.
Seems like we got a little something out of order, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We can talk about a statement that's put out by the AAMC, which, if you're not familiar, that's the American Association of Medical Colleges. So the governing board of all medical schools across the nation, and that they defined underrepresented in medicine. So we talked about diversity, right? We talked about not being able to see a lot of minority identifying physicians in the hospital. So they identify it as underrepresented in medicine means those racial and ethnic populations that are underrepresented in the medical profession relative to the numbers in the general population. So that's what I was talking about, right? So I live in New Orleans, Louisiana, where we know it is a very predominantly Black city, but there aren't too many Black physicians. So we are for sure, by this definition, underrepresented in medicine. Another thing I wanted to highlight in this excerpt from the AAMC is that it is continually involving underlying reality, right? So not only do we recognize diversity in the form of race, but we recognize diversity in the form of gender, in the form of sexual orientation, in the form of abilities and disabilities. There's so many things that I want y'all to realize that the world may be counting you out for, or the world of medicine may be counting you out for, but we are not counting you out for it. And specifically with the Funding the Future Physicians Initiative, we're looking to highlight those differences, and we're looking to accommodate you, and we're looking to support you in all of those ways that you in particular need it, not what everyone else needs and not what the general population needs. This is really, really tailored to you. And we threw around the number 80%. You need to be there for 80%. That's not only for our benefit, but that's for yours. So Dr. Lede and I, we can both attest to taking these medical school entrance exams and the medical school exams and the licensure exams. You need at least to be firing at 80% to get the score that you want. So that number did not come out of nowhere. That's us speaking from experience and speaking from the heart and letting you know that 80%, if you give us 80%, 80% is going to get you there.
Big time. So there are a few things that we need for you all to understand. One is that all of our cohort participants will be underrepresented in medicine. That means that they will come from one of those groups that was just identified in the previous group. If you don't fit in one of those groups, this program is not for you. I'm gonna tell you that out the gate. That's the whole purpose of us doing this. Okay. And the other thing is that by way of a degree granting institution, we actually changed this to 2 years. You need to be within 2 years of graduation. So you can either be in your junior year of college, and next year in 2025, you would be able to start medical school, or you are at most 2 years out of medical school to the day. So that means to August 21st, which is when the application opens, you have been out of undergrad for no more than 2 years. And that'll be very explicit on the website. It'll be everywhere on our frequently asked questions sheet. It'll be everywhere. If you have been out of school for more than 2 years, then this program is not fit for you. It's for people who are within 2 years of graduating from undergrad, or within 1 year of graduating from undergrad. So that's kind of the window we're looking for. And there are a couple of internal reasons why we did that. But the main reason for it is that we need students who are already in the motion of learning. And specifically in the motion of learning the things that we know you need to know in order to take the MCAT. Here's a sticking point for us. Your GPA needs to be at least a 3.4 as far as your science GPA goes. Your cumulative GPA doesn't need to be a 3.4, but your science GPA needs to be at least a 3.4. Now, believe it or not, this for some people this may seem extremely high, but in all actuality, is in comparison to many others, is genuinely not. I'm not sitting up here telling you a lie. I'm telling you the God honest truth. The second part is that there's a way for you to calculate your science GPA. You could literally take you could take all of your grades from undergrad, and you could literally just take them and put them into ChatGPT, and it'll calculate your science GPA for you. And then obviously we'll have internal controls to calculate it for ourselves once you upload your GPA, once you upload your transcripts. And I'll pass the next one off to Dr. Labat.
So other things that all cohort participants must attend. We spoke about it earlier. Hispanic serving institutions, Native American serving non-tribal institutions, or an HBCU. Again, most people are familiar with an HBCU, but if you don't know if your institution is one of these things, do your research. Make sure you know. There more than likely is an office on campus that could tell you more information about your institution and what initiatives they have to focus on these particular communities. Because like we said, herein lies the issue in that we have all these patients who look like all of us, who come from all these different cultural backgrounds, but we don't have physicians to serve them. So these are the three organizations that we're targeting for this particular initiative, and we would like all of our cohort participants to be attending one of the three.
I don't know why this is on your phone. That's kind of crazy.
So we spoke about this earlier, right? Committing to about 80% of all participated activities. 80% is not a number that we made up. 80% is a number that you need. You have to at least be firing on all cylinders at about 80% in order to get the results you want. The difference between you doing it alone and you doing it with our initiative is that we have a program that we're tailoring to you, your learning experience, your cultural experience. And if you give us 80%, I strongly believe that you'll get the results that you want.
100%. So the next part is that here's the thing that we need you all to understand. We need you to meet with your MD or DO resident mentor monthly for at least 30 minutes. Here's part of the reason why. If you don't have someone in your ear constantly telling you exactly what you need to hear in order for you to get your mind right, because your mind is a huge component of you doing well preparing for medical school, then the likelihood of you succeeding is pretty slim. When I told you that every component of the Funding the Future Physicians Initiative was tailored, it's because these are all the things that we know for sure you need in order to get to where you're trying to go. You need someone to check in on you. Like you legitimately need someone to check in on you. Maybe 30 minutes is too little, and you can meet up with your mentor even more. And that's up to you and your mentor. But you're going to meet up with them at least 30 minutes, and you all are going to log that every time you meet. Maybe it's a FaceTime. If you all just so happen to live in the same city, then it'll be simpler. Maybe you all can meet up for coffee, but you'll meet up with that person for 30 minutes every single month until you finish this program. The other thing is too, is that we will do mock interview training. You'll do mock interview training on the back end of these 6 months in this program. And these trainings are mandatory. Like they are absolutely mandatory, because the last thing we want you to do is to go into an interview and be like, I don't even know my why. I don't know what my meaning is. I don't know how to discuss a thing like a bad grade that I got. I don't know how to discuss not doing well on this certain section of the MCAT. Like all of these things, no, we gonna knock the rust off of all these things so that you are completely ready. You'll complete at least 3 rounds of revisions of your personal statement for the AMCAS. You will complete your AMCAS by the end of May of 2024, and you will complete all medical school secondaries within 5 days of receipt. I'm going to tell you something up front that I know you don't know yet. 100% of this entire program, we are footing. That means that 100% of the dollars that are needed for you to do this, we are paying for it. So we are paying for your medical school secondaries. We are paying for your AMCAS. We are paying for your personal statement revision. We are paying for your mock interview training. We are paying your mentors. We are paying your mentors real money in order for them to have the willingness and the time, because you should pay for people's time, to mentor you all. So when we say meet up with them, it's not just meeting up with them because it feels good. It's also meeting up with them so that you don't waste the money that we worked really hard to raise. The other thing is too, is that you must be willing to apply to USMD and DO granting institutions only. There's no IMG applications that will be funded by this grant. This is something that was put in when the grant was finalized, and it is what it is. I know there are people who have different feelings about IMGs, and I have a lot of friends who are IMGs. I actually have some fellow classmates who are IMGs, and I have nothing against an IMG. I'm just letting you know that the rules of the grant state that we cannot utilize these funds to apply to any medical schools outside of the United States of America. So how do you become selected is an important question. I will tell you this much. We are not looking for the most polished person. And I think Sid will be able to talk to this too, but we're not looking for the most polished person. What we are looking for are the people who are truly committed to becoming doctors. There are some people who like the idea of becoming a doctor, but they're not interested in the amount of work and the amount of dedication you have to put forward in order to become a physician. And so what we are looking for are those people who have demonstrated over and over and over that they don't want to do anything else other than becoming a physician. And what they need is that final piece of help to really get them to the door of actually becoming a physician. Not the people who like the idea of becoming a physician, but don't like the work that comes with it. Sid, are you there?
Yeah. Also, just to echo, when we say not the most polished person, I'm very type A. I was the kid that studied all day long and all night long. And when I tell you, I am amazed by some of my more non-traditional classmates. I'm amazed by their walks of life. I'm amazed by their determination. So you may think you don't have it, but you have it. And we can see that and we can recognize that. And if you have that grit, you have that fire, and you're hungry for it, let us feed you. That is our goal. That doesn't mean you have to have a 4.0. That doesn't mean you have to come from a long line of doctors. Russell and I come from neither of those backgrounds, and we have the opportunity to stand in front of you today as physicians. So if you have even an inkling in your brain that I have it, I can do this, I just need help, this is the program for you.
As we stated earlier, the community evaluation of a complete application will contain the following. You'll answer all of these questions. You'll have 2 letters of recommendation. You'll have your official transcript. And you'll come from those schools that we talked about. So, oh, no, go ahead, sis, go ahead.
This is just the details of things you need to do to just confirm U.S. citizenship. Everything is about paperwork nowadays, y'all know that. But a few things that can qualify as a U.S. birth certificate, a valid passport, a certificate of naturalization, or voter registration card. So this is just things we need as far as paperwork that will not be shared with anyone, just official documentation for you to go through with the program.
And then we also have students who are on DACA approval. So I'm gonna step off the podium and say something. I think it's extremely, it took a lot of work for us to be able to get this put through. But I'm proud that we got it put through, because to be able to say that not only students who have US nationalization or they're US citizen, but also students who have DACA approval can benefit from this scholarship is a big deal. It may not be a big deal to the people who don't experience some of the issues that come along with being an immigrant, but specifically for DACA, if you go look up the history of how DACA came to be and where we are now with DACA, this is a big deal for us to be able to offer this also to people who have DACA approval. So if you have DACA approval letters, then you are good to go. And we cannot accept an employment authorization card as a proof of current DACA approval. We need an actual DACA approval letter. I just want to stop here and say something real quick. If you have any questions to anything that we're saying right now, now is a good time to put it in the question and answer box that's on the Zoom link. Please use the question and answer box, because when we get towards the end, we will utilize that Q&A in order to answer all of you all's questions. All cohort participants must submit a resume or a CV, a max of 5 pages via PDF, and an agreement to be interviewed by 15 White Coats leadership, which we've already talked to you about. So now here's a big one: the cohort selection and program timeline. So August the 21st, which is about a week from now, literally 1 week from now, the scholarship application will open. It will be open until the very last day of September, when it closes. Afterwards, we will offer interviews to at least 100 interviewees. So no matter whether we get 1,000 or we get 150, we are giving out about 100 to 150 interview slots. Because the reality of it is that we don't want to set you all up to, be interviewed for something that you probably not going to get selected for. I can tell you already that this will be a highly coveted program, because literally we are funding the thing that costs the most amount of money to become a physician, or at least to getting into medical school, which is the MCAT prep process, and also getting through all of the things that come with getting an MCAS application done. Interviews will be conducted in October, and we will select our cohort in October as well. A meeting will be held to secure MCAT test dates towards the end of October, and then the heat will start. The beginning of November, we'll have our first MCAT practice exam, and just a few days later, you all will hear from somebody strictly from the AAMC to speak to you all directly, and give you all some pearls and wisdom that he has seen from the AAMC side. These are literally the people who create the MCAT. And then in December is when Jack Weston starts. And Jack Weston is the MCAT prep course that will totally prepare you for the MCAT. They have an amazing track record. They have worked very closely with us to make sure that the MCAT prep that we are producing is not only just a really cool test prep, but it also has a lot of cultural competence to it. And that doesn't mean that they're going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion the whole time. What it means is that the teachers, the way things are presented, the way information is given to you is all nuanced, and it takes into account the experiences that are commonly talked about from HBCU students, from Hispanic serving institution students, and from Indigenous serving institution students.
So the cohort selection and program timeline. So we talked about the timeline for application. That's important things to know. But another timeline for how the program is going to be fleshed out can be seen here. So in January, a letter of recommendation request will be sent out by the cohort. Okay, so this letter is a recommendation that we need. And then in February, the AAMC MCAT practice exam 2 is administered. So you notice on the last slide, that was your first one. February will be your second one. You have to take more than one practice test, unfortunately, and this is kind of going to be the theme of the next couple of years of your education. Practice test, practice test, practice test. Then in March, we are going to have our very own Dr. Bonetta Horn, who personally mentored myself and Russell throughout our entire medical school experience. We'll plan a course on prepping the best medical school application. The medical school application is long, it's detailed, and you want to know how to put your best foot forward from someone who reads them every single day, every single year. So then in April, we'll have an AMCAS workshop where we draft your personal statement and submit a medical school target list. Your personal statement is a unique thing. It's your story. It's what people see when you first walk in the door. It's your first impression. So we want to help you with that as well. Then April through May, we'll have the MCAT prep and administration. So we expect you to take it between these times. You'll be prepping for a course prior to taking the exam. And then in June, we expect you to put in your AMCAS submission. AMCAS is sort of the overarching or the blanket application for all medical schools. MD in the US, DO, there is a different system, but we also have things in place to accommodate for that as well. So your medical school admissions will be done in June of 2024.
And then obviously from July of 2024 to February of 2025, you all will have medical school interviews and secondaries. For all of our pre-med advisors who are on here, how do you help your students to be better applicants for the Funding the Future Physicians initiative? It's very simple. You can promote the initiative by making everyone aware and making sure that suitable candidates apply and making sure that you help them to apply. Don't just say, hey, go ahead and apply and don't check back in with them. The second thing that you can do is you can support your applicants. So that means helping them with their application, prepare them for the MCAT, advise them on AMCAS applications. And the third thing is making sure that you're providing references. A letter of recommendation can go a long way for a student to be accepted into this cohort. We don't have some automated system that's reading all of these applications. We are personally reading all of these applications. And so we want to hear from you, what kind of student are we potentially selecting for this program? And that means that we need your help. We can't just do this alone. Obviously, you all's goal is to produce more doctors, and our goal is to produce more doctors. And so I think of this as us being in a partnership with one another and making sure that the future is secure, specifically with regards to diversity in healthcare, by working together to make sure that these students are successfully placed into a program like Funding the Future Physicians initiative to make sure that they're good in the future.
So just to kind of drive the point home, I think we talked about ourselves. I think we talked about our goals. We talked about how Genentech is supporting our goals and how together we really want to kickstart the career of so many talented future doctors that I'm sure even listening today. I believe in you. Russell believes in you. Our organization believes in you. Genentech believes in you. And we all want to come together and work together to make sure you get that. These are some interesting numbers. I thought if you don't know, you should know. So we have about 0.4% of people who identify as Native American or Indigenous people who are physicians across the nation. We have about 5.8% who identify as Hispanic, and we have about 5.7% of people who identify as African American. So think about that. That's less than 10% across 3 different minority ethnic groups and a large 100% piece of the pie. So like Russell said, this is a partnership. We want to work with you. We want to change that. We think you all have the capability, you have the resources, you have the connections to point us in the right direction for the people who would benefit most from this program. And we really, really want you to apply. So this is just a reiteration of what we talked about earlier, right? I think there's power in repetition. Upcoming dates that are happening very, very quickly that we need to realize. Russell said in about a week, the scholarship application opens. Set your reminders. Take a picture of this slide if you need to. Take a screenshot of this slide, just so you can have in your mind those who really want to participate, or you want to share this information to your students, to your peers, to your mentees. This is the place to look for it. So this September, very end of September, we're closing applications. So you got from next week until the end of September. October, we're going to be doing interviews. We talked about you have interviews with our executive director. You'll have interviews with us. We're very real people. We want to talk to you. We want to get to know you. And then October, we will have our cohort selection, and then we'll have a meeting to secure your first MCAT prep test dates, which we talked about. You'll take one very early and then one during the preparation process. So this is just a little quick resource page. We can be found at all of these different places. So just in general, our email is contact@the15whitecoats.org. This is also another page that you want to take a screenshot of, you want to take a picture of. It's a good place to find us. Our executive director, Ms. Batiste, can be found there. And then we have our website where information about ourselves, information about tons of our initiatives, information about this particular initiative can be found there. And then I want to highlight our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We post updates there on all the time. For you young millennials or Gen Zs or Gen Xers or whatever they're calling y'all, I think I'm a millennial. I'm not that old. I'm 27. That's the place to find your day-to-day updates on what's happening, when are applications due, when are things closed, and then just to get to know us as an individual, because we're on there all the time. We want to make sure we're not these figureheads in the sky. I have the white coat, but I can take it off. Like we're all people, and we're here to support you. And we want to appreciate you so much for listening. Looks like we got tons of questions, and then hopefully we'll get a chance to answer a couple of those. So let's.
Okay. Oh yeah, we got a whole lot of questions. So for the people who put questions in the chat, if you would just like put them into the Q&A, that would be super helpful. So we'll start with this first one. It says, is there any way we could see a breakdown of the schedule? Like, would meetings and courses be evening time? Sata, I think this is a great question. So we are still working on that. The majority of our meetings will be in the evening. Some of them will be on Saturdays. It's really dependent on us securing our speakers. It's also dependent on our schedules as physicians. So as it gets a little bit closer, we'll make sure that that we get that to you. The next question was, I am not a member of an HBCU, but I identify with a group that is underrepresented in medicine. Does this exclude me from applying? Okay, we're gonna say this again. If you don't go to a Hispanically serving institution, an indigenous serving institution, or an HBCU, this particular initiative will not apply to you. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say something. The issue that we have right now is that we have a limited amount of funds, right? Like we don't have an endless amount of funds, but we also have a limited amount of like access right now. Think about it. Generally, at predominantly white institutions and much larger institutions, they already have embedded into their programming programs that prepare students to become physicians. The reality of it is that that's probably because they have a much larger endowment. HBCU schools, Hispanic serving institutions, indigenous serving institutions do not have that. And so what that means is that those are the people that we're targeting right now, because we recognize funding is limited. And the funding is limited even for the work that we're doing. So we were purposeful in our consideration of that. Are non-traditional minorities excluded from this scholarship? Okay, so I'm not entirely sure what non-traditional minorities means, but what I will tell you is that the minorities that were allocated, that were talked about on that slide, and we will publish this entire video on YouTube so anybody can watch it, those are the people we're looking for. You want to take the next one, Sid?
Yeah. So is this program applicable for students who plan to apply to MD, PhD programs? So as long as you're looking to secure an MD or DO, that's fine by us. You also got to think about you're probably going to apply to more than just MD, PhD programs, just because there are a lot, but there aren't as many as you think. So as long as you're looking to secure an MD or a DO, totally good. We encourage you to submit your application. So, can students who have received their master's via scholarships and have been less than 2 years out of school apply for this scholarship? So, as long as you meet that criteria, less than 2 years out of school, you are encouraged to apply. Again, that's just because we're looking for people who are already in the mindset of learning, who are already in the mindset of putting that nose down and getting to the books. And it might not be for you if you're transitioning to getting back into school. You got to be ready to hit the ground running. So we got another one that says, hello, thank you for this incredible opportunity. If a student is looking to apply to the OxCam MD PhD program, would they be eligible? I think we talked about that already. As long as you're looking to secure an MD or DO, you should be cool with me. And then if we went to community college before university, will I need to submit transcripts from both institutions?
Yeah.
I would say yes. Also, that's just good practice for whoever asks this question, that a lot of times when you're applying to everything, they want to see your entire academic record. Community college, courses outside of college, summer courses, including your university work, all of that should be included. You want to take the next one?
Yeah. So his next one says, Vicky Robinson asks, what is the mentor to mentee ratio? It's 1-to-1. Every last person gets one mentor to go with them. It's not like one mentor to like 5 people. No, it's one mentor to one Funding the Future Physicians Initiative cohort member. That's it. We aren't like pairing you with a million different people. We are pairing you with one person. It's a 1-to-1 deal. For the student that asked, this is a good resource for calculating your GPA. I'm gonna put this in the chat for anyone who needs to see it. Let's see. I think you all can see it. If you can't see it, I'll make sure it's posted on our website. But it's essentially a resource to help you to calculate your cumulative, your science, and your post-bac GPA. Are there other opportunities for those who aren't a part of underrepresented groups, but who are a part of underrepresented groups, but do not attend HBCU? Is there a way we could still be involved with the cohort in some capacity? We didn't plan for that to be the case in this particular cohort. For context, this is our first year doing this cohort initiative. I'm sure next year will be bigger. It will be way bigger. I can guarantee you that. It'll probably be 100 or 150 people, and it'll be much harder for us to manage, but we're gonna build it and we're gonna do it because that's just what we do. So the capacity right now for our scholarship is specific to what we announced during the presentation, that these students come from HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, and tribal serving institutions. Can students be 2 years out from graduate school, or is it just 2 years from undergrad? We are talking about 2 years from the day you graduated from undergrad. So if you just so happen to finish a master's within those 2 years, great. But by August 21st, if you are more than 2 years out of undergrad, then this ain't the program for you right now, unfortunately.
So will this scholarship program be available for future years? Absolutely. That's our plan. Our plan is to make it bigger and better because that's just what we do. We would encourage everyone who can participate now to do that so we can integrate you guys into the next part of our big plan and to make this scholarship available again. So yes, that is the plan. If I'm in the class of 2025, but I plan to take a gap year, should I apply with this app cycle or wait for the next potential years? So that's a good question. Number one, you got to think about what are you doing during your gap year. If you don't plan on applying, submitting your MCAS by June of 2024, you should not apply this year. So that's the thing, right? So this year is about preparation to enter school after the application cycle of 2024. So if you do not plan on taking your MCAT or submitting your application prior to that, then you should not apply this cycle. That would be a next cycle. Will this program be afforded for the following year? Like we said, that's the plan. And then so based on the prep, we've been looking at taking the MCAT in May. So yeah, so April to right before you submit your application, April to June is the window in which you want to take it. And that's not an abnormal window. Honestly, that's when a lot of people take it. A lot of your peers who are going into medicine will be taking it at that time, but you will have the finest of preparation from this particular initiative that's going to help you get the score that you want. So we're excited about that. And then we spoke to the MD PhD, still eligible. And then Rush, you want to take this next one from the anonymous attendee?
Do you have any tips for students that attend large institutions that need to ask professors that may not necessarily know them well for a letter of recommendation? So my recommendation to you is that don't ask someone who doesn't know you that well. Please, please, please do not ask someone to write you a letter of recommendation who does not know you that well. Ask professors that you have gained a relationship with, which brings me back to a larger concept. When you become a physician, you will need to know how to talk to people. You will need to know how to interact with people. You will need to know how to get along with people and express who you are and what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to become an anesthesiologist or a child and adolescent psychiatrist or a pediatrician or whatever it is that you're trying to become. You will need to express verbally to people who you are, and you will need to introduce yourself regularly. Usually when I go places, I'm like, hey, I'm Dr. Luday. I'm a triple board resident, which means that I specialize in pediatrics, adult psychiatry, child and adolescent psychiatry. I'm also the co-founder and president of the 15 White Coats, a nationally recognized nonprofit that is helping to diversify healthcare by providing cultural imagery, economic support, and access to culturally adept literature. That's who I am. That's my 15-second spiel about who I am. You need to have that kind of pitch, and then you also need to be able to tell people like, hey, I mean, theoretically, you're in your third or your fourth year of undergrad. Some professors should know you by now. Theoretically, some professors should know you by now, and if they don't, then the reality of it is that you need to find somebody to get that has seen you do well in a class that can help you to advocate for you being a part of this program. Is it required to be a pre-med student at the time of application submission? I'm a general science entering my second year major at a JUCO currently. I will be transferring to PVA to Prairie View A&M University as a bio major, ensuring pre-req classes are met. Fall 24 as a junior. So if you are a junior in fall of 24, that means that you can't start medical school by fall of 2025. So you would not be applicable, like this program this year would not be applicable to you, okay? But next year's program will be. So that's that. I'm assuming interviews will be virtual. You assumed correctly. All interviews will be virtual and they'll be about 30 to 45 minutes long, okay? Is there a certain amount of shadowing hours required? Nope. Because I'll be honest with you, I did very little shadowing before I went to medical school. And I don't think you need to actually do shadowing in order to get in medical school. Do you all know of any recommendations for where non-traditional students can receive similar support? At this time, ISIS, no. I can't think of any off the top of my head. The thing is that what we are doing is extremely novel. Just keep that in mind. What we are doing is extremely novel. We giving out board exams, like we paying for people's board exams, like 3 people's board exams every last month of the rest of this year. We give out mental health scholarships every year from November all the way to January. In February, we give out scholarships. In May, we give out scholarships to high school students. We give out a ton of money, like a whole ton of money. So if you aren't following us if you aren't following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, then you're in trouble because we literally announce scholarships on a regular basis, like all the freaking time.
I mean, also you got to think about too. We just went through all of this, right? We're not far removed from this process, so we know what you need, and we're super always excited to tailor scholarships off the top of our heads to what you need at that time. So shameless plug for the Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, because that's where you'll find all of the outside scholarships that are not specifically directed towards this initiative. So the next one said, can a person who has graduated for more than 2 years but not back to school for prerequisite courses a year period in the same group of person needs guidance to apply? So the short answer is no. The long answer is that you have to be aware of where you are in your process, right? So the bottom line for us, the hard bottom line for us is that your application to medical school has to be ready by June of 2024. You have to be prepared to take the MCAT between April and May. You have to be prepared to enter medical school in the fall of 2025. So if you don't meet that timeline and that's not where you are, this is not the application cycle for you. So can we still apply if our science GPA is less than a 3.4? So unfortunately, the answer is no. We're looking for people who have a science GPA of 3.4. That's not to discourage you, and that's not to say that you absolutely will not achieve these things. That's just to say that we are looking for a sort of a niche group right now that we can help on our first year of this initiative. I encourage you to follow us on the social media pages and see if there are other scholarships that apply to you, but this particular one wouldn't. Would the 2-year out of school requirement apply if you are a recent master's graduate? So I feel like Rush, you can speak to this. I feel like we got a lot of questions about that, and we just need to make it very, very clear. Like,
listen, if you are not within 2 years of graduating undergrad, you are not applicable for this program. That's just where we are right now.
I feel like there's been a bunch of questions. So like that's just bottom line. Within the 2 years of your undergraduate coursework, within 2 years. So let's say that I graduated from undergrad in 2022. I could apply this year. I could apply in 2023. I can apply in 2024. But those are the 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to the next question. I graduated from an HBCU more than 2 years ago. So that one wouldn't qualify as well. Is the science GPA a lenient GPA? If our science GPA is a little bit below that, should we exclude ourselves from the application? So yeah, it's a hard GPA cutoff of a 3.4. And also, like, I want to note that a lot of numbers that we come up with, the 80% 3.4, these aren't made up numbers. And these are numbers that medical schools actually look for. So that's just a little tidbit of information if you want to take that from here, that a 3.4 is a good place to start as far as having a competitive science GPA. So that's the people we're looking for. Yeah. I'm currently not ready to take the MCAT as I only have taken half of the recommended classes to prepare. Should I apply? So the answer to that would be no, because the hard bottom line is you need to be ready to take your MCAT in April to May of 2024. You need to be ready to submit your application in June of 2024 to enter in the fall of 2025. If you have any questions about whether or not you fit into this, that's a good thing to think about. Can I take the MCAT in April or May? Can I submit my application in June? Can I enter next fall? That's just it. And then also think about that. Take out all of the financial factors that would affect that, because we are paying for that. So can you physically, as a person, accomplish those 3 things? That's a good way to sort of gauge where you are.
Yeah. Can you please send this video to the advisors so that they can show this to the recruits on the first day? Showing this video on the first day would be a great avenue to introduce the program to future awardees. Absolutely. So the plan is for us to download this video and for us to upload it to our YouTube channel, and we will email that out to all of our advisors. Every last one of our advisors, our executive director will make sure that that gets out. Okay. The next question is, are there other organizations that would be able to support underrepresented people in medicine that would include those who did not go to an HBCU? I feel a little left out. There are not many options for us. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I think the hard thing for us is the thing that we're doing, we are limited in our ability to do it. If we had an endless amount of money, it wouldn't matter where you came from. But we don't have an endless amount of money. And so we end up with this conundrum where, yes, indeed, some people will feel left out. We had a bunch of people comment this exact same comment under our post from yesterday, just announcing the Funding the Future Physicians Initiative. And we get it. We do get it. But we also get the flip side of that, which is when you go to an HBCU, then you do understand that they have an immensely lower endowment and they literally have nothing. And so the reality of it is that we're trying to help the people who have absolutely nothing. Generally, these larger institutions at least have the basics to prepare people to go to medical school. I don't know what this question is.
I'm not sure what you mean by 510. I don't know what that meant.
Does this program support possible MCAT exam retakes if one wants to retake their exam? Yeah, I mean, the thing is that we've already talked about what our stipulations are for who we're selecting. We aren't determining whether or not you've taken the MCAT before as a parameter for whether or not we'll select you for this program. That's not the end all be all. But what we want is people who are within 2 years of graduating undergrad and are prepared to start medical school in fall of 2025. If those two things are met and all of the other criteria that we've put in place are in place, then you have a shot at becoming a part of this cohort. What are all the recommended classes you have to take and how many hours? Those things are on the internet.
Yeah, that's the best place to find that. Like if you just Google like courses that are covered on the MCAT, that's a really good place to start. And then just correlate that with whatever your course catalog is at your institution. That's the best place to do that because it's a long list, and it's better just to have that search that on your own.
Somebody said, do the letters of recommendation have to come from professors or can they come from anyone? You should never, ever, ever get a letter of recommendation from anyone. You got to think about it. When you are applying to medical school, right? When you think about that, you want people who can speak to your academic prowess, right? Like that's what you want. You want someone who can speak to how do you perform as an academic student. You don't want someone who talks about, oh, this person does well at gardening or they do well at taking care of my dog, because none of those things matter when it comes down to getting into medical school. They are important. They're just not important for getting into medical school. Does that make sense? So I'm sure some of you all may have more questions. And if you do have some questions, you can submit them to the website. To the email address that we put on there. We will take this video, we will download it, and then we will upload it to our YouTube channel, and we will share it via our email marketing to make sure that you all have access to this to go back and watch it again. We will also send out an email when we open up our application process to everyone who has signed up on our website. If you've signed up on our website under any of our forms, you will get access to this. We will also publish it on our website. We'll publish it on the internet. It'll be on news channels. Like it's going to be everywhere. There's nobody, your school is going to publish it. Like it'll be literally everywhere. And you won't have you won't have an excuse for whether or not you have access to questions and access to the information that comes with the Funding the Future Physicians Initiative. We are so happy to be able to offer this to you all. We're also extremely happy that you all came. We are so grateful that you all came, and we want to make sure that you all get the most out of this.
Also, before we go, I think we got a kind of slew of questions as to, and it's a really good question, as to what separates Jack Weston from other things. So many things separate Jack Weston from other things. And our lovely executive director has some things listed. I'm just going to read out to you. It's focused on critical thinking and test taking skills. They're going to cover all the content you need to score exceptionally. But really what makes the exam difficult is the ability to read and understand what's going on. So those critical thinking and concept skills are so, so important that you're going to get with this course. And then they assign and cover virtually all practice questions that the AAMC has instead of you going through them on your own and trying to figure those out as homework. And, those are curated to best help your students understand the principles of the exam. Also, no other company offers direct access to the people who created the course. So at Jack Weston, their course instructors have done this for decades. They eat, sleep, and breathe MCAT. These are the people that you want to talk to, you want to learn from. From our customized offer, we're going to provide direct access to the experienced bilingual instructors who are present and can explain how best to prepare to the MCAT exam for the bilingual student that we mentioned earlier. And then we have something called the Jack Weston Adaptive Study Schedule. It's created to help you stay on track throughout the course. Your course completion date and the amount of hours you study per week. The schedule will tell you exactly what you need to do on a weekly basis, which is really good. You don't have to make that up on your own. They'll assign lectures, homework, workshops, everything that fits your way of life. So that's another thing too. Like trying to fit things in and make your own schedule is really hard sometimes. Jack Weston is going to do that for you that other programs will not do for you. They will say, you have class at this time, we expect you to be there. It's not what we're doing here. So the schedule will adapt and rearrange with assignments over the next couple of weeks. So there are also over 18 hours a week of live instruction that will help you to talk to a person and ask questions, whether that be one-on-one or in small groups. And that will be one of your mentors to help you stay on track week by week. And then they are different in another way in which they have handwritten psychosocial outline. They jot down real world personal examples, things that are not just in a textbook, things that are not just reading from a textbook or someone reading from you. So Jack Weston overall is super personalized. We actually, one of our co-founders, student Dr. Brian Washington, went through it and he loves it and he swears by it. So we're really excited. It's a different program than what you hear, the Princeton, the Kaplan, the exam crackers. They worked with us to really personalize this for our cohort members of the 15WC. So we're excited to share it with everybody.
Thank you all so much for being here. We're very grateful that you all were here. We will, as I said, we'll upload this very likely by tomorrow night to our YouTube channel, and you all can look at it there. It'll also be up on our website, so you can see a little bit more about our webinar and just go back and watch it again if you need to. We will send out an email just letting you all know when the application process is out. Thank you for being here. Follow us on social media, and thank you so much for being here. See y'all next time.
Bye.